Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the ITAP Connect series, brought to you by Industrial Transformation Asia Pacific and Smart Logistics Indonesia in collaboration with HERE Technologies, where we bring you insights and discussions with speakers and a chance to interact with other session participants. Today's session is the second episode of a two-part webinar that looks at the supply chain and logistics sector in the APAC region, focusing on issues, developments, as well as opportunities for players in this space. Before proceeding further, we have three quick questions for our audiences. Your responses will be most appreciated as they help us understand your needs and interests better. You should see a pop-up on your screen right now. Okay, so the questions are quite simple. They ask you whether you've invested in new technologies to improve end-to-end shipments of visibility and usability of supply chain asset tracking, what your three top priorities are in the next 6 to 9 months in terms of transport and logistics solutions, and what are the key motivations when considering the purchase of a smart supply chain management technology. All right, so I'll give you a few more seconds to work on the poll. Without further ado though, allow me to continue. I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Dobrina Laleva, Global Product Marketing Manager for Supply Chain Solution at HERE Technologies, who will be sharing her opening presentation. Based out of Berlin, Dobrina brings over 10 years of experience in product marketing and business development from large corporations and startups, such as Novartis and Deliveroo. She's responsible for defining HERE Technologies' value propositions, marketing strategy, and messaging, as well as planning and executing new product launches while managing cross-functional implementation of plans. With that, I'm very pleased to hand proceedings over to you, Dobrina.
Thank you so much, Jane. Next, please. Hi, and welcome everyone. Today, we will be talking about maximizing logistics productivity through real-time supply chain visibility. It is really my pleasure and honor to be your speaker today. There was already a short introduction. Once again, my name is Dobrina. I'm the Global Product Marketing Lead for Supply Chain at HERE Technologies. I've been with the company for more than 6 years now, and as mentioned, I'm based in Berlin, Germany. Before I start the presentation, I want to give you an overview of what I will be discussing today. So for those of you who are not so familiar with HERE, I will talk a little bit about the company and what we do, who we are. Then we will move on to discuss supply chain resilience and why we at HERE believe visibility is key. I will talk about our end-to-end shipment visibility solution at HERE, give you a real-life example, and then of course leave some time for key takeaways. So who we are, who is HERE? HERE is the world's leading location data and technology platform. We help our customers understand and model a world that's always moving and changing. We produce what we call a digital representation of reality. It's a lot more than just roads. It's also living, dynamic, and continuously evolving. It covers buildings, stores, airports, docks, but also the things that move, vehicles, goods, shipments, IoT sensors, and people. We empower our customers, partners, and developers to achieve better outcomes by leveraging our open location technology platform. And a little bit facts and figures about HERE. We have actually 8,000 people across 5 continents in 56 countries. So we have a very strong global and regional presence. And our history actually goes back all the way to 1985, where a small team of experts started developing a digital representation of the Bay Area. And our mission ever since has really remained the same, to really empower people to achieve better outcomes and navigate their world with the power of location. Our core industries, as you can see on the slide here, are automotive, transport and logistics, the topic of today's webinar, tech, media and telco, and retail. And one of the best things about being such a great company is that we actually don't get to do the work by ourselves. We have partnered with some of the best minds and organizations globally, as you can see from the logos on this slide. We actually count most of the major car companies as our customers, plus many tier 1 solution providers. We partner with a lot of fleet and on-demand companies such as Grab, geospatial specialists such as Esri, telecommunication companies such as SK Telecom, conglomerates like Mitsubishi Corporation, as well as trusted partners such as Oracle and Tata Consultancy Services. And now I would like to start talking about why here for fleet and supply chain. Here, again, as you can see from some logos here on the screen, partners also with some of the biggest transport and logistics companies around the world. What do we bring on the table as a company? There are three main things I would like to focus on today. The depth of truck-specific attributes, traffic-aware ETAs, and precise shipment visibility to improve the movement of goods and assets throughout the supply chain. We are a location platform company, as already mentioned, and we enable innovation to build and enrich logistics systems to meet your needs of the changing business. We also provide you with the ability to create complex store plans and customize maps suited to needs within complex yards and warehouses. And here I would like to show you how location data and services helps you at each step of your logistics journey. It all starts with transportation planning, where we help you improve performance with dynamic route optimization. Moving on to execution, location technology can provide you real-time shipment visibility, accurate ETAs, complete condition monitoring, so you can identify disruptions and tackle them before they become big problems. At freight handover stage, we enable smoother inbound logistics with yard mapping and navigation. We also help improve performance of last mile operations and cut costs. Last but not least, with our powerful analytics engine, you can conduct post-trip analysis for informed decision-making and future business improvements. So now I would like to talk about supply chain, our key topic of today, and how you can leverage location technology to power logistics demand of today and tomorrow. I would like to start with some key market voices and key trends and numbers that I want to highlight today. So we all know COVID, it's top of mind for everyone in the industry today, but even before COVID, around 80% of companies were still lacking basic supply chain visibility. And 70% of businesses, they still deem their supply chain too complex to accurately predict ETAs at each step of a very complex multimodal supply chain and journey. COVID-19 has, of course, made those problems worse. It has accelerated the need for resilience and for visibility even more. But it is not just COVID. It's also Brexit, Suez Canal blockage, increase in consumer demand, natural events, and many more. Next, please. So here, I would now focus on how you can make your supply chains resilient by leveraging location technology. I will talk about execution, freight handover, and post-trip analysis. At the execution stage, you can leverage location intelligence to monitor multimodal shipments in real time. Location technology can help you identify disruptions and provide you with geofenced alerts. You can provide your customers with accurate ETAs, inform them about delayed or early shipments, and also shipment condition information. In addition to shipments, location technology can help you gain real-time visibility of returnable, reusable assets and warehouse assets seamlessly indoor and out. So think about containers, forklifts, pallets, roller cages, and many other assets that you reuse in your operations. This helps you drive impact on key supply chain metrics such as service reliability, cost optimization, and asset utilization. At the freight handover stage, we enable smoother inbound logistics and handover across road, rail, sea, and air. So think about complex multimodal supply chains. We help increase throughput of logistic hubs with yard mapping and navigation all the way up to the loading and unloading docks. Again, the KPIs that you can influence here include operational efficiency, reduced waiting times, and improving driver satisfaction, to name just a few. Last but not least, post-trip analysis. You can report on shipment condition, SLAs, performance. You can also report on asset utilization, dwelling, detention, just some examples of how you can use our powerful analytics engines. You can derive insights with better data analytics for future business improvement and inform product, packaging, and transport decisions. Again, the KPIs I would like to highlight here include process optimization, data ownership, and customer retention. And why do we as a company think that you should be investing in supply chain visibility? There are a lot of operational benefits, but I would like today to highlight three main ones. What we see from our customers is between 20 to 40% improvement in ETA prediction, between 15 and 20% decrease in shipment wastage. This is due to the ability to monitor a shipment condition in real time with the power of our hardware technology. Last but not least, due to the ability to inform customers about delayed or early shipments, prevent damages, prevent disruptions, we see between 25 and 30% increase in NPS, a boost in NPS score, and increase in customer satisfaction. And how do we solve this? Here, we have an end-to-end solution called HERE Shipment Visibility. It consists of three main components: the hardware, the physical sensors that you attach to a shipment, APIs, and a front-end application that you can start using immediately to track your shipments. You can track anything, anywhere, as I mentioned already, across air, sea, road, rail, but also indoor, all the way to the right floor and room. We give you best-in-class multimodal ETAs when your shipment is with a third-party provider, with a third-party forwarder. We also have a portfolio of trackers that allow you to monitor conditions, so full condition monitoring, including temperature, humidity, shock and drop, acceleration, and more. So you can detect damage while your shipment is in transit. We are a platform company, so we also allow you to customize your solution to your needs. Some examples here include mapping your warehouses, creating a private map of your warehouse, yard, port, but also seamlessly integrating your solution with existing ERP, WMS, or TMS systems. So I would like to just summarize here with everything we have said. With the power of HERE Shipment Visibility, you can really drive impact on key supply chain metrics. You can reduce costs, improve customer satisfaction, and meet your SLAs. And here, I would just like to show you some of our use cases and how you can leverage HERE Shipment Visibility across different industries. We help you track and monitor the condition, ETA, and location of multimodal high-value shipments. Called supply chain, as I mentioned already, our hardware technology allows for full complete condition monitoring. So you can also monitor temperature, humidity, get tamper alerts and ETA notifications, as well as cargo damage control. So those use cases are applicable across various industries. As we can see here on the slide, some examples: pharma and medtech, food and beverages, logistics service providers, automotive, high-tech, consumer tech, and more. And as we come towards the end of the presentation today, I would like to give you an overview of a case study that we have with Siemens Healthineers and how we solve the problem of shipment visibility for Siemens Healthineers. For those of you who are not aware and familiar with Siemens Healthineers, they are a leading medical technology company with over 120 years of experience and over 50,000 employees in 70 countries. The problem they were facing: they wanted to track spare parts of time-critical and high-value medical equipment. So again, think, for example, of a big MRI machine. They have a very complex multimodal supply chain. They work with various forwarders globally. They were lacking real-time visibility. So shipments were often going to the wrong locations inside of hospitals. They were arriving either early or they were being delayed. Sometimes they were even arriving damaged, so the technicians couldn't use those shipments. This was, of course, leading to wasted technicians' time because the technician was either spending time looking for those shipments inside of a hospital, or they were not able to use the shipment because, as I mentioned, the shipment was arriving damaged. This was increasing costs and risks. Technicians were were not able to meet their appointment slot. And last but not least, this had like a significant impact on MRO operations. How HERE solved it? With HERE Shipment Visibility, here Siemens Healthineers is now able to monitor the location, ETA, and condition of medical equipment spare parts. So what does that mean? A smart sensor device was developed to monitor, to allow complete condition monitoring with global connectivity and ability to record data when offline. This improves ETA performance and gives Siemens Healthineers the ability to inform hospitals about delayed or early shipments. It allows them to gain indoor visibility inside of a warehouse for equipment monitoring and on-time discovery. It also reduces dead on arrival shipments or damaged shipments because of alerts and complete condition monitoring. Last but not least, we allow for indoor tracking of shipments all the way up to the right floor and room without additional infrastructure, so reducing total cost of ownership down. Our tracker uses Wi-Fi sniffing or fingerprinting technology to understand where the shipment is and locate it. So now I would like to leave you with some takeaways. We at HERE believe that the supply chains of tomorrow will require accurate real-time ETAs as demand increases. Goods and assets will need to be located really everywhere, indoor and out, across complex supply chains. We also believe that flexible integrations coupled into existing systems, as I already mentioned, coupled with a platform approach will be key. And we see from our customers that customers are looking for infrastructure service solutions to keep total cost of ownership down. We at HERE have more than 30 years of experience, and we believe that we're uniquely positioned to enable the future. Location technology can enable your use case. We're here to co-develop, to partner up, to co-create. The focus really is on you in your logistics use case. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed your presentation. I will now like to encourage you to download our State of the Movement report, where we talk about the challenges and opportunities of asset tracking, fleet management, and shipment visibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, for presenting HERE Technologies solution capabilities that also provide some context for our following discussion. For our audiences, if you have any questions for Sabrina, please feel free to interact with her using the Q&A function. At this point, before we transition to the panel session, we have another quick poll to get a better sense of our audience's needs for specific kinds of technologies. And you know the drill, a pop-up will appear in front of you now. So the questions are quite simple again. They'll ask, are you currently using a map-based solution that enables real-time fit shipment and asset visibility, and where you see your organization investing in the next few years? All right, 2 quick questions. So we'll allow a few more questions for you to work on it, but in the interest of time, allow me to continue by introducing our panel speakers who will be discussing the topic, challenges and opportunity gaps in APAC's B2b supply chain operations and distributive logistics. Leading in discussion is our moderator, Mr. Stanislav Melnikov, Associate Partner at McKinsey & Company in Indonesia. Our panelists joining us here today are Mr. Abhijit Sengupta, Director and Head of Business for Southeast Asia and India at HERE Technologies. He's joined by Mr. Aditya Sari, Vice Chairman of ALI, the Indonesian Logistics Association. He's also the cluster head at Harvey Southeast Asia. And also we have with us Mr. Paul Bell, Chief Experience Officer at Yogi APAC, based in Australia. So a quick word again here to our audiences. We have a great line of speakers who have a lot to say in the topic. So please feel free to interact and post your questions for them using the Q&A function. Questions will be tackled as they occur, where they relate to the discussion. All right, so with that, let's get into the discussion as I hand things over to you, Stanislav.
Thank you, Jane. It's nice to meet you all. Just a short question, Jane, before we jump. There were questions in Q&A section. You want to answer it now or after call?
At any time, at your convenience, yeah.
Okay. Good. Then nice to meet you all. So as we are transitioning from the presentation, and I found one number in the Brina presentation very interesting. She mentioned 80% of companies do not use any tracking system, any tracking solution, and it basically means that 80% of companies in the region do not see the goods from the point they shipped it and they until delivery of the point. So I think let us start with this. First, I do really believe into it, and is it really like that bad? And what kind of problems, what kind of gaps you actually see in B2B part of supply chain? If okay, we can start probably with Abhijit, and then we go one by one.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a very interesting stats which my colleague mentioned, and I believe this is one of the reason is that the kind of expands the supply chain ecosystem has. So it's not only limited to a country, and it's goes beyond a particular country. What I mean by that is in multiple cities and multiple towns and neighborhoods as well. And when we talk about the B2B side of things, the things are not easy either. So there are multiple hops, and there are multiple points which this ecosystem tries to connect. So the while I would would like to hear from my co-panelists that how do they see and be look at that number, but the problem definitely is real, which we do see across the ecosystem.
Okay, Aditya, may I ask you, like, do you see the same problem? And you probably can talk also as leader of Indonesian Logistic Association. Like, is it that a big problem for Indonesia? Is it slightly different from country to country? How do you see it?
Thanks, Tan. If we look into Asia, I think it's the past 8 months, 1 year, I think is that we face like double whammy of crisis. One, especially on the demand side, we face the COVID impacting predictability of demand. On the other hand, the container crisis actually affecting the predictability of our supplies. So feasibility, obviously, the key component of our discussion. And if we see the issue actually is across, what I see, I think is not only Indonesia, might be slightly in a different scale between market to market. Indonesia with, well, I think it's less maturity of logistic infrastructure, geographical challenges, obviously, I think is have more impact. However, we also see similar problem or similar issues, I think is faced by Malaysia, Philippines in that market, while more mature market have maybe a less problem with that. It's really, I think, it's the feasibility across supply chain. This is the time where we need to ensure that our supplier in the US or in Europe are able to load their products all the way until ensuring that the ship coming on time, or at least predicting the arrival of the ship. This feasibility across supply chain, I think, is getting more importance, and that really actually make a difference whether the supply chain are able to support the business, especially during this difficult period, or just being actually is going through the motion. So I see, again, I think it's similar to Abhijit comments that I think it's feasibility become more, getting more importance, especially in the supply chain players in the past, at least 8 months or 1 year.
Yeah, Aditya and maybe Paul will help here as well. Visibility, I understand, but visibility itself, it's probably not a problem. What does it lead to? Is it the problem that losses, or just like unpredictable delivery, or what is happening? So
if we see what is happening, really actually is uncertainty on the supply and the demand, and how we match both. Yeah. And how we manage the supply chain. So the inventory level is at optimum level, assure supplies, at the same time assuring that the inventory cost doesn't kill our cost of goods. Yes, that is the problem. However, I think it's the big topic on the visibility, I think, is getting more important. We see this visibility, how it becomes a problem because the information are kept in separate pockets. Some in the shippers, shipping lines, truckers at the origin, truckers at the end, transit points across the shipping route. So at the moment, what we need to do is we have to either web scraping, getting the access towards a different database and compile it to provide one dashboard so we can make the right decision towards supplies and how we manage the distribution all the way to the last mile delivery. So I think it's that yes, the supply, the demand actually is how we match the supply and demand. I think is really actually is the challenge. However, as mentioned, visibility is really playing a bigger part in the discussion, in the decision that the supply chain companies made lately.
Thank you, Aditya. Paul, you probably also have a view on the problem, and you're also, for you, visibility is probably not only the problem but also the business, because I think Yoji is working basically on the solution to increase the visibility. How big is the problem from your side, from your perspective, and like what do you think it leads to? What is the what are the issues that are triggered by this like lack of visibility?
Sure. So I think the Asian market is probably not as mature as the US or the European market when it comes to visibility. It's probably a lagger. It's very much playing catch up and has been over the last 1 to 2 years, driven by the Grab and Uber effect. So consumers are driving visibility back into the B2B market. For me, the reason you have visibility, there's two key things. One, if you're a service provider, it allows you to prevent redelivery, so reduce your cost. So you can deliver first every time. So that improves the customer experience and reduces your cost. The other key reason most service providers are chasing visibility, it's all about cash. So if you can get real-time EPOD and real-time delivery, you can invoice and improve your cash collection cycle. So gone are the days of waiting for your transport provider to collect a manual docket, send it back to the office, consolidate, and then send an invoice to get paid, which may send anywhere from 7 to 30 days. You can start your cash collection immediately the delivery happens. So for me, they're the two key reasons why visibility is becoming very, very hot across the market in Asia. I think visibility has existed in pockets. So international shipping has had good visibility. Domestic shipping has had okay visibility until it goes to the subcontractor. But pulling all those parties together to give an end-to-end solution, we're still some ways to getting there.
Okay. Well, and so as we already talking, do you think there is like one-stop solution for this, or like a silver bullet, and you can?
There are players in the market. So if you look at the IBM Maersk TradeLens solution, which is like a blockchain solution, which is attempting to pull data from various parties into a single location. They're looking at trying to solve that end-to-end if you're an international shipper. Yoji, we look at it from a domestic perspective, so we can give great visibility end-to-end domestically for your domestic transport provider. There's not a single silver bullet at this point. There are people providing amazing solutions, but I think we are converging on that position where data will become a freely available commodity and visibility will be something that everyone will have access to.
Understood. Abhijit, what do you think? Is there like one-stop solution, or it's really like a patchy network of different solutions? And maybe also to address the question that was asked in Q&A before, what is the level of benefits? Yeah, what is are we talking about? Let's say 1-2% of supply chain costs for the company? Are we talking about like 10 to 20%? what is the level of savings actually company can achieve with this like visibility solutions or tracking solutions?
Yeah, so let me take the second question first. So I think Paul made a very important point here. So it's not, so there are multiple benefits or issues if there is the visibility is as a problem. So one is, of course, just to understand if it has been, the goods have been delivered or the good has moved to the destination. That definitely is first topic, which is basically has the services promised has been delivered or not, right? So that's the point number one. But the other part, which is the B2B space, a very important point is if the transaction is complete or not, can the invoices be raised or not, and it does it goes into the accounts receivable side of things or not. So which again is a cash flow as well as the ability to kind of continue the business, right? That's also a very, very important part of the conversation. And last but not the least is the customer satisfaction, plus as we are seeing more and more new categories are opening up for delivery, from a food to cold chain or grocery, etc., which also has a B2B component. So the ecosystem has now definitely expanded than probably what it was in traditional way. That's very, very important. And then of course the warehouse is an important part of the conversation. So the percentage is very difficult because the percentage will be very different at all if you break it down, because if you look at a cash flow, the impact could be can be calculated very, very differently because, cost of money to credit, etc., etc. So that's one part of it. So I think to answer that question is very difficult to put a percentage depending upon which part of the business process we see that improvement. That's one. And coming back to the second question, the other question, I think what you wanted is basically, if I understand, is it a silver bullet or is it a one solution, right? But I guess there are again layers. Is that from a proof of delivery as being one part of the business process, or visibility itself is a part of the business process, and also the demand and supply. Basically like when to order and minimum order quantity and replenishment, etc., etc. And especially on the pandemic times, we have seen it has not been very easy when the borders have been closed and some of the goods and were not able to cross the international border. That has been an issue, and there are a few other international events as well. So I believe it's a much bigger story, so to speak, as well as the visibility is concerned.
Okay. Thank you, Abhijit. Aditya, what do you think? So I think we understood it's patchy solution. It will be no one-stop shop. What about the impact? Like how you would quantify it? Because I know we have like 50 plus people, and probably for some of them it's currently the decision: should I invest into it or not? And the question, obviously, what they're asking themselves is, so okay, how much money will I get from it? And like at least where to look and like how to calculate. Aditya, we don't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, let me answer on the silver bullet question first, Stan. At the moment, I think we still have to rely on multiple technology solutions. I don't think there is one single solutions that able to provide visibility across. But obviously, we hope there will be some standardization that allows a platform or ecosystem where whether it's crowdsourcing or that will provide more singular or less number of solution or technology that can provide end-to-end supply chain visibility. I think that what I think is we as a supply chain players looking at. On the second questions, I think we should not only looking on the cost saving. I think it's easy actually is how much cost to calculate the ROI. However, I think we also should look into, especially during this period, loss of sales. I think it's one of the big components. How the company or our customers or we as a supply chain company are able to reap the sales and not losing it just because we don't have the right products at the right time. Or the right place. Yeah, so there's a lot of decision that obviously have to make based on the information on visibility. But what my experience, I think, is that the benefits, not only that we save costs from additional inventory, but from additional transportation costs, but also how the strategy, the visibility will also provide a better resilience to capture market trend, market shift. That is actually another benefit, I would say, that should be considered when investing in visibility technology.
Thanks, Aditya. Okay, so let us take the position probably of like potential client or potential the company who is looking into visibility solutions, and they hear now, okay, there are many solutions. It's patchy. It's different. You can take this or this. For international, you will need one solution. For domestic, you will need another solution. So where to start? Aditya, like if you would be now like building your own company, where would you start building the solution, and like where would you start to improve the supply chain?
I think I would start with really actually is identifying what the customer is looking for or the company is looking for. I think it's because most of the times I find that I think it's the objective, what they're looking for, is still unclear. I think that's really the first step, and really with that identifying the pain points in the current situation, especially towards the objective that they want to achieve. And really important, as you said, there's a lot of technology available in the market, and actually it's very confusing at times. Defining the priorities and define the phased approach towards adoption of technology. Of course, then you consider again the objective, the pain points, as well as the budget, the readiness of the organization, and so on. It's very important. I think is I don't think everything I think is should come. I think it's very short period of time. Phased approach with clear priorities are very important when we are approaching or adopting technology, especially in supply chain visibility.
Thanks, Aditya. Abhijit, maybe like so where to start? The question is same, and maybe a bit more about so where to go to understand this like all the solutions available on the market, because it looks like there are plenty.
Yes. So, and again, I think depending upon which part of the business process or has the most of the pain points. Now, some cases, the last mile is an issue, right? And if this country is large and there is a bit of a complexity there, and some of this B2B player needs that kind of a solution. So maybe that is one of the area to start with for that particular enterprise, right? A supply chain company. For many others could be the cross-border when the goods are moving from one, and that again depends upon this product they are manufacturing or are shipping. So it all depends. I think that is an important point. But the crux of the matter is that having such technology solution across these variety of supply chain players is an important, and that's why in the previous presentations as well as was mentioned, like some examples were given, like a large healthcare company which was solving a problem not only the home country where there's manufacturing, but is also when it's being dispatched to the point of sale and where they're being used. So we need to just kind of break it down, but then again depending upon what is the biggest problem for that particular entity. But the summary is these solutions exist today, and these solutions are very, very impactful to provide benefits. So it's not only the cost saving, but it's the lost opportunity and the revenue, the upside as well.
Thank you. Paul, what do you think? Like, what is, if I'm confused client, where to go?
You come to Yogi to start with is the first place. To come back to your question, Stas, in terms of what sort of cost saving can you expect? Let's start there. So visibility in itself doesn't necessarily drive a business case, but when you put visibility with some other factors, so using that data to better optimize and better plan and better react. So if you package it up together and you say, I'm going to use that and I'm going to learn and I'm going to improve, and you use that to optimize your routes, better allocate your drivers, manage your labor, manage your fuel, we would typically expect in a transport business somewhere between a 5 and 15% cost reduction. So there's pretty hard and fast numbers you can get that say if you go and invest in the technology, you're going to get that sort of a advantage. That doesn't factor in the customer experience. So if you're into a B2C consumer model and your customer expects to get it delivered in 2 hours time, you've got to look at how you're going to get it delivered to them in 2 hours time. It may be more cost effective delivered in 4 hours time, but the customer expects it in 2 hours. So you've really got to look at the variables and as I think Aditya said, you've got to look at the business benefit and the business requirements. I think what visibility does for transport is gives you the eyes and ears on what's happening. Because if you imagine you're running a warehouse and you want to make a change to the warehouse operations, you can stand there and you can see the impact on that change. It's a very controlled environment. When you're dealing with ships, trucks, planes, bikes, the only way to see the impact of your change is by having visibility and data. So, I think you've got to think, as I think Abhijit mentioned, cross-border, you've got B2B, B2C, all of these elements with visibility can be controlled, can be optimized and improved. And the reason we do all these things is for a better customer experience, so that I, as a consumer or as someone who's running a warehouse, can guarantee the goods arrive when I'm expecting them. So my labor's lined up, so that someone's home to collect it, so that you're not wasting time. And for me, that drives why you go after a visibility solution.
Thanks, Paul. I see the questions in Q&A. Is anybody familiar with Singapore Trade Data Exchange project?
I'm not, no.
Emily, I think I cannot say exactly for Singapore Trade Data Exchange project, but similar projects in other countries, it's usually helping you to understand where the goods are coming from, but it's usually not, like live information about how the trades are moving around, etc. So it's helping in some sense, but for particular company, it will not help you to understand where is your truck and where is your goods moving in right particular moment of time. So it's helping, but it's like different solution. Okay, so then we discussed the topic about like a confused client. Basically, he can understand first about like what exact problems is the company solving and like with what solution it can be solved. Maybe one question around this as well is when the company should decide whether to build it or to buy it. What is the size? What is the scale? Because I'm sure if we ask companies as Tokopedia or Shopee, they would probably say, okay, we built everything, because we need custom-made, tailor-made, etc. So what is this approximate size of supply chain when the company should decide, okay, now I build my own solution or I use some existing one? Paul, we may start with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's many variables around this one. I mean, one depends on the company's risk appetite, whether they think that they have got, the skills to go and build it themselves and do it better, which, if you're competing against a software vendor whose core capability is investing thousands of hours and people into building software, it's a big decision. Do you think you're going to get a competitive advantage from building yourself versus buying? And do you think you can scale faster from building versus buying? If you're going to go and buy a cloud-based software as a service, product-led platform, typically you would expect to be live in 5 days, 10 days, maybe a month at worst. If you're going to go and build it yourself, I just can't see you going to get an outcome in that period of time. So it depends on how quickly you want to scale, your competitive advantage, how big you are, and what you're trying to achieve. The other key thing in my mind is technology a core part of your business? Is transport a core part of your business? Or are you just offering it as a service? Because you really build cricket bats, or you build computers, or you build PCs. If they're the things you build, why would you go invest in building your own logistics technology when there are amazing solutions available with partners like here that you can buy and deploy fully cloud-based, full cloud native, and you can have them up and running in weeks or months.
Thank you. Abhijit, what do you think? Is there a size, is there some scale and after which it will be different, or it's really about, is it core of your business or not core of your business?
I think that's the starting point. If the supply chain logistics company, that is their main and the core business, they should rather come to us and other technology companies. And it's very simple. There are a couple of reasons to that, and I'll illustrate with examples here. So the scaling is more of the scale, and a scaling of the business is one of the biggest challenges of the supply chain company, especially in the pandemic time. We have seen it, because suddenly the landscape changes, and the expectations has changed, and also multiple variables come into the picture. Now, if a supply chain company or logistics company wants to build a solution, it's going to take time, and it cannot scale, and then again, you need developers, and you need your engineers, and you write the code. That's not the core business, right? And also depending upon where they are, and then of course cloud as well as scalability and the platform itself, because what the platform does, it takes the learning from other players in the ecosystem and then creates that solution which is can be used. And I think Paul made a very important point, like you can get it in few days. You sign up, you get the service, rather than you always go back and then start running a technology solutions company. So I think the focus is going to be very, very important, and it's there could be some very specific requirement of an enterprise or its company. That's fine. We understand it, and that's probably some professional services help is required, some customizations required. That's a very, very different topic. But just to build the core solution, very, very difficult to scale. And I think if you ask me, it's money which they should use in something else and then scale up their business than investing in a software solution.
Thank you. Aditya, what do you think? Like anybody from Logistic Association who is building it at scale and successfully, or everybody is currently buying it rather?
I would agree with Paul and Abhijit that it really depends on the business strategy, on the core business, core focus, and pretty much actually is what problem they try to solve, what pain points they try to solve, and what job that need to be done. If the job or the problem can be solved by the technology available in the market, and that they don't need proprietary or confidentiality towards the system, obviously I think will be much more economical and flexible if they get it off the shelf. But on the other hand, if the company would like to have more proprietary or more control towards the system ownership, the design, and the development of it, obviously I think is that they should look into developing it itself, despite all and considering all the cost and time involved. Yeah. So really, I think it depends on various situation and what kind of pain points they want to resolve.
Thanks, Aditya. Aditya, so as we stay with you, maybe we shift gears a bit and discuss about what are like disruption ideas, disruption topics is currently in B2B. So examples are all over the world. Like for example, in many countries, we see now like crowd logistics platforms where all the truck drivers are connected to one platform. Somewhere we see this like gamification also and loyalty programs for the drivers, etc. Do you think it relevant for Indonesia or other Asian markets, or you think it's like rather years ahead when it will come to the market and will be at scale and really visible?
I think the big question really actually how that affect our cost to serve. The COGS, or cost to serve, and how that can create additional business, additional revenue from that. The thing is, I always think is in Harvey, things we always try to be consultative as much as possible, looking at the cost from the system perspective rather than I think it's a specific transportation or warehouse perspective, but really how that affect. How that contributes to the overall supply chain strategy or company strategy in general. While we see a lot of things, the elements of gamification and loyalty programs, I think is some can be very useful in helping the companies achieving their objective, their business objective, but some can also be perceived as additional benefit, not really something that's strategic. What I see, I think, is again the main element to that. I think is back to the question on how that model perceived by the customer that contributing to the company objective that they want to achieve.
I didn't. If you would name like 2-3 disruption that will happen in the market, like in the next 2-3 years, what would it be?
I think it's in supply chain industry. I think it's we kind of excited or anxious in the same time, looking at how e-commerce actually is going beyond retail and move towards other sectors. How Amazon, with their capacity, their financial ability, their business model and network can eventually come to Asia and eventually go into other business models, with the consumer goods, pharmaceuticals, and other sectors. I believe I think is with their capability, not only Amazon, but I believe other e-commerce players, the model can be really disruptive to other sectors if the technology and the business model can be implemented appropriately towards the other sectors. I think that is one key game changer that we may look into. Another one, obviously, I think is payment system, fintech, how that will affect the simplification of our supply chain transactions. I think it's excited to see how those technologies develop moving forward and gaining a broader acceptance in the industry.
Thanks, Aditya. Well, I know you have a personal opinion about the gamification. Maybe just a bit more about that. What do you think it already working on the market? What works well, and what is not working in this disruption game and in crowdsourcing platforms, etc.
Absolutely. Look, I think you've got to look at. I think the speaker today talked about the platform effect, and I think that is the disruption that's coming. So if you look at, say, the impact of WeChat in China. And you look at these platforms which are gaining huge amount of prevalence in certain countries, they are the real disruptors. We at Yoji are really excited about one element, which is what we call gamification. And the reason we're excited about it is it changes the way people buy software. So traditionally, software is bought by an executive and then it's passed down to the dispatcher. The dispatcher starts using it and the driver gets told, go do it. what we're trying to do is influence the drivers, the subcontractors who are using our platform, a little bit like Atlassian did with IT developers. They influence them by Jira. We're saying, if you use our platform and you act as a driver and you use the Yoji app, we're going to reward you for good behavior, whether that is a cash incentive, a loyalty credit, a voucher. The opportunities are endless. So by rewarding the end user, so the driver in this case, for good behavior, the transport company gets a direct benefit because they achieve the outcome they want. So they get the behavior of the driver. The user, the consumer, gets a benefit because they get their goods delivered by a driver who wants to work for them. But more importantly, what is really exciting is if I've got a subcontractor who's using the Yoji platform and is using a gamification, and he says to his friend, hey, I deliver for Yoji and I get an extra $1 for every delivery because we've gamified it, then his friend says, well, how do I get on that? And so you see the software proliferating because it's been driven by the gamification process and it's been driven by the driver. So we've totally flipped the traditional buying of software on its head, and we've got people on the ground saying, I want to use that platform. For me, that's really exciting because across the Asian market and also across Australia and the US, influencing behavior at the driver level has been very, very hard. The stick approach hasn't worked. So we've got to introduce these carrots if we're going to change behavior. So yeah, I think it's gamification we are super hot on. We love it.
Interesting. Abhijit, are you using it in here as well, or it's like not your area rather?
No, it's not an area, so to speak. It's very different. But as Paul has mentioned, but if I may just take your previous questions, like what kind of disruptions, we just continue with that. Yeah. So one, we do see what's going to happen is the scale itself will disrupt. And when I say scale is, for example, probably 3-4 years back, we were talking about, say, top 20, 30 cities in a country where the delivery requirement or supply chain kind of delivery, including e-commerce, was visualized. But now it's going to more and more cities, and within the cities also more in different neighborhoods as well. And think of in Indonesia or in Malaysia or even in Australia and India, that scale is very, very different now. Now, what it brings is a couple of challenges to the companies, because majority of the delivery, and especially the last mile delivery, or the drivers are gig workers. Many of them are gig workers. And that's a very, very different way to manage them. And that's a bit of a competition between multiple platform players, because you have the same set of pool or probably, so that's a very, very different way to kind of engage. And that's probably Paul idea comes to the picture as well. And the two more areas where it could be very, very important, we see the disruption and probably an innovation side as well. So one is the data security. We're talking about, significant big data here, consumer data, behavior data, activity data, etc. And last but not the least, the green. We will see more and more electric vehicle coming, be it 2-wheeler or 4-wheeler. That will also kind of influence in a certain way the supply chain logistics companies would have to kind of implement their processes. So some of them are converging, the finance, payment, electric vehicle side of things, as well as how do you manage that scale?
Thanks, Abhijit. So basically from what I hear, one, the scale and both new geographies and e-commerce is going into new areas. And the second one is we will see new business models, and probably again coming from e-commerce mostly. Then I hear number 3, what Paul is saying, the gamification, and that the stick didn't work, so we will need to make a carrot. And then data security, green technologies. I think it's like overall trends which will also affect the supply chain. Paul, anything else to add to our list of disruptions and like big things in B2B logistics?
I think Aditya mentioned this one, but I think it's worth sort of talking about a little bit, which is payments. So if you're delivering to a consumer and you're ordering off a e-commerce website which allows you to pay on delivery, A lot of the portals and these companies have problems with failed delivery because this person doesn't have cash. So being able to pay electronically, digitally to the driver in real time will be a huge disruptor. I've also seen in Indonesia, the digitization of the warungs is a huge thing that's going on now, allowing the traditional, local shop to be digital, take electronic payment, buy goods using trade credit, and increase their range. So I think the financial side of the supply chain is still ripe for a significant amount of disruption.
I like the digitization of warungs. We really should make a webinar about it. That I think we will have a lot of people. Okay, I think that's all from my side. Jen, we don't have like any Q&A questions. First of all, thanks a lot, everybody. And that was really a pleasure to talk to you with somebody new. And like if any questions from the people who attended the session and wanted to clarify further, I think you can share also with organizers, with Jane or any people, and we will try to answer it offline. Jane, over to you.
Thanks so much, everybody. It was great. It was a very interesting discussion. So the audience, please join me in thanking our speakers again. We do hope you found today's session enlightening.